So, oops, whoa, it is terrible. Okay, um, I'll keep it brief, I guess. I don't know how the sound is going to be. This has a very terrible microphone. So I watched um, what's it called? Heldensagen von Kosmos Insa, The Legend of Galactic Heroes, Die Neue These. Actually, it is These, not These. Anyway, uh, when I was a little kid, I watched the old one. But it was on TV and I kind of missed some episodes, I guess. And I guess I missed the final episode or something like that. So I'm gonna spoil this, by the way. So I watched all 24 episodes of the Die Neue These, and from my memory, the last thing I watched in the previous one was Kirha is died, and Reinhard von Logenheim, I think his last name, Reinhard, swore that he was going to kill um, young Wen-li in a final battle, which is irrelevant to Kirhai's death, by the way. Kirhais dies due to an internal conflict within the Galactic Empire. So the whole theme of this was very interesting for me because it does not have any aliens. So the Legend of Galactic Heroes takes in space, and according to this new one, after the 29th century or during 28th century, people abandon Earth or forming now new empire, and this is the I think the Galactic Empire. So there are a couple of calendars which confuses the hell a lot of me, because they don't actually give the year based on common era. They gave it once in one episode and I didn't really keep track of. But anyway, I don't care. They find a galactic empire made of only humans. So unlike something like Star Wars, Star Trek, there are no aliens in the galaxy. In fact, in the entire universe, known universe. People have this light speed technology. They are warping around and going to other places. And what happens is they form colonies. But at some point, what was some sort of federation or something like that, one guy rises and says that you're not doing a good job and I'm a dictator or something, and now I'm forming my own dynasty. And that's the guy called Rudolph forms the Golden Bomb dynasty that now has been lasting for 5 centuries. Of course, so time is relative. This is the other thing. How can I talk about years? I talk about years, I assume, based on Earth years. So one rotation of Earth around the Sun is 1 year, right? And even within this new calendar, there are still like months, March, April, and such. There are 2 different type of calendars now, because after this Galactic Empire comes to be, and now there's something called nobility. There's this dynasty going on, and emperors and such. But the folk is oppressed, and a guy called Heinessen rises up, and then forms this alliance. So these guys are deserters, go to another planet, form their own alliance. They are independent of the Galactic Empire, and now for the past 150 years or so, they are in a conflict. Okay, so this is what the anime is centered around, and it centers around on both factions. So from my memory, I kind of recall there was no good and bad. Neither alliance nor the empire was pure good or pure bad. So you would think that empire is, bad and such, but there is also a lot of corruption going on in the alliance. So that you say that, or I say that, okay, neither faction is just, and because they both have, and there is a war. This is a war, right? It's not like it's more realistic and touches upon human values, and basically the war itself is bad. And I really like that it doesn't invent new creatures with a lot of noses and eyes and such protruding from their head, and fighting. So it is a say it's I really like that. It's saying that humans wage war, and in the future, no matter what the technology, they still be waging wars. And this is very realistic. This is how I believe it would be. A third, fourth world war will no longer be maybe a world war, but then a solar system war and then a galactic war. It makes sense that people who are separated from each other are now having their own culture, their own agenda, and yeah. So it is. I really like this. Now, what I didn't, however, notice, and I don't know if there's any deviation in the Neue These, is that uh, Reinhardt is not a very good guy at all. So he wants to rule over the universe, and he's influenced so much by this Oberstein guy. Oberstein is a guy who lost his eyes, but he still can see with these artificial eyes, and um, he's a Oberstein is basically a very smart guy, but kind of influences Lohenheim. And this Reinhardt has this his friend, his longtime friend with uh, Siegfried Kirchheis, and they have a nice time. But Oberstein basically disrupts that friendship, and that's the sad part of it. So Reinhardt just basically gives kind of consent in a sense that these dynasty guys nuking their own planet and such. This is in the second season, which apparently aired as like 3 movies in Japan instead of on TV. Even though it's based on still episodes, I'm not sure if it aired on TV in Japan. And then Kirchheis basically, while trying to protect Reinhardt, dies. And it was actually Reinhardt's fault, which is based on actually Oberstein's advice that Kirchheis is no longer allowed to carry a weapon. So that scene was kind of unrealistic in that these are war prisoners, right? They are getting there, and this guy goes there with the corpse of this guy. And what I don't understand is how come that they can allow a weapon to be carried to the presence of this Reinhardt guy, right? Are they making any check of weapons or anything like that? So that didn't make sense much. But anyway, basically at the end of the season 2, I noticed that there is no real ending. So what my memory told me that there was going to be another war between young Wen-li, and young Wen-li is the guy of the Alliance. He's a good guy. So he's a peaceful guy. He doesn't want military. He doesn't want to be a military personnel. He's interested in history and such, but he gets like dragged into military and such, and then he just gets successful one after another. He never lost a war or anything, and therefore, well, he rescues the people from destruction, and he rises all the way to this admiral rank. And young Wen-li is a good guy, whereas Reinhardt is not. And this is where the second season ends. So there is no conclusion to the war. The war is going to take place. The war is ongoing. Now Reinhardt takes over pretty much the empire. He doesn't become the emperor, but the emperor is a 5-year-old kid. So Reinhardt becomes the most important person. And this young Wen-li guy, he's pretty much like the acting head of this alliance army. So yeah, that's where it ended. I kind of wish that it concluded, or I was expecting that it would conclude, and it looked like it is going to last for a while, because there are apparently this third faction. It's not a faction, it's like a planet called Fezan, and they are influenced by these guys called Earth cultists. So there is Earth. The Earth is not actually completely destroyed. There are still people living on it, but it's no longer a habitable Earth. Basically the aftermath of coronavirus. But no, it's more than that. there is no real life anymore. So it's a barren land. That's what's explained. But somehow there's these cultists. They are religious and they believe that Earth is going to be the center of the society again, which is not realistically speaking possible. And what's the deal with them? So we don't really get to see the deal with them in detail, but there apparently this third faction, Fezan, is actually an influenced or like puppeteered by these Earth cultists. But what's happening with them? Like, they don't really fit into this conflict between Alliance and the Empire. So, and of course, there is this, topics of people have like light speed, but they're fighting with guns and at some point swords and, axe and such. There is a reason for that. But yeah, so I really like that, um, it's like a German empire. Everything based on the Galactic Empire is based on like German Empire and such, but they're not Nazis or anything like that. Though they still they're an empire, and the Free Alliance is more like United States. That's the analogy there. I hoped we would see a conclusion. I don't know how much longer the real story goes, and I'm curious if we will have a third season. I really hope that we could, because it's a completely different take. There are no cute animals. There are no cute some weird species. There is almost not a single moment where I laughed. There isn't a funny moment. This is more like almost like a tragedy, which is kind of what we are in right now, right, with the coronavirus. So, and the character models are updated, though a lot of things, a lot of side stories have been missed. So there was something like a Caesar guy that was backstabbed by a Brutus guy. We all missed that. Well, but for those who wanna watch them, there is still the old version. Anyway, this is the end of the video, so I'm glad I watched it.